Alright, so we have Gilv on French once again, up against GnuGnu on Delhi. And we got Delhi player in the red trunks here, the blue player here, the French. So it's a very nice close hunt and berry spawns here for the Delhi player to be able to aggressively TC towards their opponent if they choose so. Gilv, in the meanwhile, hunts actually quite safe but far away from the base, which I think also is how Gilv likes to play it, but might be scary against aggressive Delhi if that's the route that GnuGnu chooses to go for. So you have a lot of distance wood gatherers here initially just to make sure GnuGnu can get both the mosque and the house down and get both a lumber camp and a mining camp down all at once. Also able to fit in wheelbarrow being Delhi, so worthwhile to take wheelbarrow survival techniques, and then when you age up take horticulture immediately. Sort of no reason why Delhi players shouldn't just queue up every single tech they've got access to that's going to be useful for them, like all the eco techs, all the military techs, unless you actually need the building to produce out of, because that's the only thing. You may opt to delay upgrades as Delhi for a little bit in order to field a couple more units, because upgrade time will be a little bit slower because all their upgrades are slower. Veggie pointed out to me it's on a bit of a scale depending on what class of tech it is and what age it's from. With some of the really shitty techs like forestry really only taking about double the normal time, while age 4 armory upgrades, or blacksmith upgrades, sorry, take about 10 times or more even. Actually no, it's not that much, is it? It's like 8 times or something. It's pretty ridiculous, but Delhi obviously can reduce that because the number of scholars they've got in the mosque actually reduces the amount of time it takes to get all these techs. And the age 2 landmark that they'll generally go for will be one that allows them to produce scholars so they can continue getting all the mosque upgrades here and get half price scholars out of the I can't remember what it's called, is it Golden Dome? Or Dome of the Rock? I'm not sure. Anyway, Gilv going for school cavalry, pretty standard here, but make no mistake, Delhi can be quite aggressive behind the initial tech oriented age up. Well, Gilv's going to be able to rely on French's initial aggression to first secure the map and then dictate what they want to do to take the game onwards from there. They get early value, often playing aggressively, but if it's pretty even, play quite greedily, and if you know, they lose the initial fight, don't really get any value out of the early harass, they'll probably, you know, just sit back, play a bit defensively, build up a knight archer army because they've got the easiest pathway to do so, and rely on the strong pushes that allows for. But in saying that, the Delhi player, GnuGnu, quite comfortable on Delhi. Dome of the Faith, sorry. Half price scholars, going to be on the way to speed up these upgrades. GnuGnu quite comfortable with the initial delayed start and then being able to slingshot towards a lot of production, considering with the first upgrade you get allows for double production. Can't remember what it's called now. Double unit production, double speed unit production per production facility if you've got a scholar garrisoned. So a bit of scout v scout action going on. Defended player usually has the advantage because they can always use their villagers to help chip into this fight, but at the same time it can be tough to do so. So GnuGnu just looking to gather through this because he probably wants to try and squeeze in a few scholars. Wheelbarrow nearly finished up for Gilv, and it's nearly finished up here for GnuGnu, I believe. It has finished up, and he's getting survival techniques behind it, so he'll be able to get on the hunts quite quickly. GnuGnu's actually sent the scholar into the barracks just to speed up the initial spear production. Doesn't have any spears in production as such, so these upgrades are going to be a bit slower. At the same time, here we go, more spears coming out, 7 seconds instead of the usual 15. Quite useful against the fact that the opponent, the French, going to have that early knife production 20% quicker than a regular stables. Nothing to scoff at, though it is not quite as powerful as, say, English's double longbowman production. Or once more of these scholars come out. But GnuGnu really needs to be able to continue gathering gold behind this, because it's going to be the pathway to enough scholars to keep getting the upgrades in time and keep producing units at double speed out of added facilities. So blacksmiths, double blacksmiths and stables added here. Not a bad idea, because I mean these upgrades are going to take quite some time, especially with a lot of pressure on the gold mine. So Gilv just getting comfortable, continuing to try and harass, but has to be very careful because Knight V Spear is no joke. But able to snipe another villager in the meanwhile. Get out, so very good, nice micro early on here. But considering the fact that Gilv has gone for double armory and added a stables, might be looking to go for the more aggressive H2 style. Going to rely on getting these techs, but they will be a little bit delayed, so it gives him time to actually get the units out to really push behind them. The spears for GnuGnu, the Delhi Paper, able to make palisade walls, a unique ability for them, so really nice for their defense here. Abbasid in the meanwhile gets access to double range spears, and some of the other civs get access to age 1 spears and things like that. There's a bit of a variety how the game is played, even though the core of the tech tree is fundamentally the same between the civs. But another knight here for Gilv. I'm taking quite low, so he's blowed a couple of knights now. I'm doing his early game villager snipes, but he's going to delay expansion onto this berries slightly. Ooh, and now Gilv really risking this knight here because it's low enough the Lancer charge is going to take it quite low again. The wolf's now joining in on the fray. Able to slowly chip away at the horseman. So GnuGnu's going to have to stop and kill that thing. And Gilv in the meanwhile looking to go towards a second town center, I think. Maybe add a range. Here we go. Second town center's already finished. Still gathering a little bit of stone just to be able to make and upgrade towers. Well, upgrade towers once they're made. So you don't have to garrison villas in them. And get that arrow slits or springwood embankment also increases the range on them. So very versatile to get the tech. Archery range and probably a blacksmith going down. Maybe another archery range as well. Gilv actually moving where he's opting to place it while got just houses. The blacksmiths have been getting all the techs, so their first tech's going to tick over. GnuGnu probably needs to hurry up and get another one in queue here, but probably will realise once the pair of them kick in. Meanwhile, Sacred Sight's already under a bit of control here. The Scholar should be able to tank through this, I think. That tower will go down, but Gilv Gilv might force... Yeah, the Scholar probably only just made... only just making it there, so the Sacred Site under GnuGnu's possession. And another... Ooh, this time GnuGnu might not be so lucky, and we'll have to hide the Scholar for the minute. The third Sacred Site GnuGnu's going for. So one of the exclusive techs, you saw it there, was the fact that Telly can go for these Sacred Sites, which are effectively a relic on the map, and if you can control all three, it is a win condition. You need to control them for 10 minutes, though. So the French player going to be relying on the fact that the Knights are heavier class of armor than all these other units. When they're not fighting the Spearmen, just outright win every trade otherwise. So, but Gilv going to be adding his own Spearmen with barracks and has a pair of Rangers to add Bowmen. Very nice varied comp from the French player. Well, for now it's just Spearman Horseman here for GnuGnu. He's been continuing to harass Gilv and picked off a villager, forcing a pretty big garrison there as well. These horsemen gonna have to retreat, even though there's a juicy bowman ball. Not quite enough of them to really stick around. That knight's quite low, they probably could have taken it out even. This Gilv only just now getting chivalry, so he will be able to heal these knights if he can keep them alive. They are quite a valuable unit. If you can heal up a knight from 10 health, you're getting somewhere in the ballpark of 200 resources. It's huge, more than the actual value of, say, a horseman or something. But GnuGnu really forcing Gilv to retreat here, punishing him for trying to deny the Sacred Site so early, having invested in so many production facilities, but not actually having quite the eco to afford producing out of all of them just yet, I don't think. Second stable's being thrown down as well. So I guess that's the only downside to the 3-unit type production, is you need ultimately more production to keep up. And then that sets you back in terms of your wood. And Gilv has gone for second town centre. GnuGnu hasn't. So for now, really just relying on those Sacred Sites to stay even and ahead, stay even and ahead economically, and the fact that he's getting all these garrisons, he's taking good trades, he's getting a lot of kills here, and Gilv trying to work to castle behind this, but he needs a lot of food in order to do so while producing a very food intensive army. No towers or siege, there's basically nothing that doesn't cost food here. So GnuGnu sort of chipping away at the archers, but also trying to avoid all these spearmen because they trade extremely well against the horsemen. So the Gilv's saving grace for the minute, but he's running out of archers, so he has to back off here. Now GnuGnu has gone for triple production style as well. He can actually empower the buildings with his scholars, which he's doing as much as he can of. And for now, he hasn't actually got any in the mosque, but he's just looking at using them to actually heal up his forces at the moment, because bearing in mind, Delhi's going to have to rely on this. He doesn't have any automatic healing techs, but the French army, these units don't either. It's really only the knights that benefit from it early on with chivalry, an expensive tech, and you probably need a fair few knights to really justify it. Villager, a single archer harassing villagers. Quite a nice attempt there from GnuGnu. So GnuGnu's taking a big engagement here. I think it's a big unit count advantage, even though he's definitely got a lot less archers going in the fight, but a lot of horsemen going down for him. Bearing in mind, we've really only got spearmen left at the moment for Gilv, so it's pretty much spear v spear at the end of this fight. A lot of horsemen going down, but they do only cost half as much as the knights. Gilv now really starting to trail on food and over-gathering a bit in terms of gold. Only just now figuring out there is that archer harassing the villagers. There's a couple of vills falling. But now Gilv's going to be on top of that. GnuGnu's set to age up here, I think. So Compound the Defender, going to make it really cheap to actually tower up and put emplacements on everything. Stone walling, probably not so useful considering tournament players tend to not really rely on it. Stone towers, no one actually does in tournaments because they're banned, and stone walls, you know, you can only do from castle onwards, but even then people tend to delay and prefer palisade if they can. It's a big investment. It's much easier to gather the wood for a lot of civs because you're much more inclined to get your wood upgrades over your gold ones. But I mean, people on Abyss Delhi, it's probably not such a problem because you're going to get all your upgrades for free. But GnuGnu going to be able to go for a couple of relics around the map in the meanwhile. Gone for this one up here, which is quite nice. That Scholar's going to have to rely on something taking out the outpost anyway to take the sacred, so it's better off just grabbing the relic, because it is the most far away relic. Or GnuGnu grabbing another relic here, going to be able to grab one up here at the top side of the map as well. So, and one at the bottom side. So GnuGnu, great relic control, restricting Gilv. Only the one at the rear side of the map right now. And Gilv still really struggling for food right now. Plenty of gold in the bank, and it's hurting him in the sense because he could have had more food and wood to really field a few more archers and spears and horsemen in this fight here, but for now he's really overwhelming GnuGnu, who needs to bring this relic back quickly. Ooh. Conversion attempt, but it's just going to force Gilv to retreat briefly. Cover for the fact there's another scholar bearing a relic, so GnuGnu in the meanwhile has fitted a war elephant. So really quite useful against both the knights and the archers. Only really a problem has a problem against the spearmen, but the fact that they'll be focusing spearmen means that they're not focusing the horsemen. Makes it easy for GnuGnu to really focus them down, because he's adding in man-at-arms now as well. So Gilv sort of down on tech in the army composition for the first time in the game. Being the French player has access to those heavy melee units before the Delhi player, but now the Delhi player adding them in. Gilv, I think, might be... Ooh, Gilv might just have enough to make it through this. So that war elephant, so much health and is really absorbing so much damage for the spears. Tower early coming in, going to be able to rain hell and pick off the spears from behind it. So ultimately, oh, Gilv does have to retreat because he's not able to pick off the war alley and all that. How much do these things cost, man? Yeah, so it's 1,000 resources for either elephant unit. Really expensive commitment, but GnuGnu making it work, able to keep a lot of these higher value units alive now and trying to lay down the law before Gilv is able to take advantage of his own heavy armor units that aren't just knights, such as the man-at-arms, or getting counters to them, such as the crossbowmen, and getting a bit of siege like mangonels in if he can, or springalds. It'll be quite useful for him against the Delhi player at this stage, and GnuGnu sees a lot of the golds, not going to be able to take that top sacred site, but for the moment looks like he's going to be able to secure the bottom side one. In terms of the relic count, he's managed to pick up 3, and he might be able to throw down another mosque and put that 4th one away. Oh, actually, do you need to? No, it's not till you get to 5, that's right. So GnuGnu now trying to take a push on Gilv. It's going to be scary now because the War Alley, I think, is quite good against buildings. Well, actually, both Alley units are quite good against the buildings. So GnuGnu now pushing into Gilv's base. It's quite scary too because they'll at least be able to tear down the buildings quite quickly the moment Gilv has to retreat. Guildhall finishing up. Just going to switch towards arm production, actually being French, not crossbowmen, but they're the substitute unique French unit. It's going to be tough for Gilv from here because he's got to keep a lot of villagers gathering but also in garrison and protected and not really expose anything, but at the same time GnuGnu's going to be able to keep streaming units in. This is rough for Gilv because these villages are going to just picked off by this wolf. Gilv attempting to gather a bit of stone to try and put down a defensive keep, I think. At the same time, he's really locked out of any gathering at the moment, so GnuGnu is shoved across the map. His push has really led to his ability to keep just adding more units and streaming in. He's got plenty of gold generation from his relic and his sacred site control at the moment. He's looking to try and gather from around this third sacred site, maybe even control it in a moment. And he's actually going to catch a lot of Gilv's stone gatherers over here. So very rough for Gilv, who in the meanwhile is finding it hard to deny this force. Because these TCs, with all their arrow fire, as much as they're great against the light units, are finding it hard to pick off man-at-arms and the tower allies who are being healed up by the scholars. So maybe Gilv needs to look at having the TCs just focus down all the scholars at this point. It's really that'd be all he can get huge value out of, I think, if he's actually having to get a market so he can trade wood into food for the most part, I think. So that town centre falling. He's bringing back more vills to try and keep the TC at full garrison and keep the vills alive a little bit longer. And just sort of make sure GnuGnu focuses that over his production buildings, but right now Gilv finding it hard to find a way out of this game. He's actually putting down a keep, but I don't know if he has the vills to get this done. There's so many units here for GnuGnu to clean this up. He's still got the war allies as well. GG, Gilv having to tap out.